constitutionalism has its origin in South Africa, and it was the brainchild of an American academician named Karl Clare. And in 1988, in his article in South African Journal of Human Rights, uh, he wrote an article titled Legal Culture and Transformative Constitutionalism, wherein he described this term as a long-term project of constitutional enactment, interpretation, enforcement, which is committed to transform a country's socio-political institutions and power relationships in a democratic, participatory, and an egalitarian direction. It was seen in South Africa that post their independence, post-colonial independence, even when they were independent, there was no true sense of independence because of the practice of apartheid, which was considered as an antithesis to South Africa's constitutional democracy. And hence this concept, which when enunciated by Clare, provided an antidote for protection of fundamental rights in emergent democracies in Africa. Prominent cases, South African cases discussing, there are many, but two prominent cases I'd like to discuss here. First one is Road Accident Fund and another versus Maid, in which the South African Constitutional Court held that the South African Constitution was evolutionary and transformative in nature, and its chief purpose was attainment of universal socio-economic rights and giving those rights to individuals who had been for long victims of discriminatory conditions. And thus it was held that transformative constitutionalism, it delineates the constitutional ideals of the South African constitutions, and importantly, it is in consonance with right to dignified human life, the topic which we are discussing, human dignity. Again, in another South African case, which was Batao Star Fishing versus Ministry of Environment, again, the court held, the South African Constitutional Court held that this concept is enshrined in the South African Bill of Rights, and it's a cornerstone of South Africa's constitutional democracy and affirms values of human dignity, equality, and freedom. In addition, it's also said that this concept casts a duty on the judges to protect the transformational nature of the Constitution. Very quickly, moving to Indian Constitution, and how is transformative constitutionalism inculcated in the Constitution of India. Impliedly, the concept of transformative constitution was always there in the Indian Constitution from its very inception, that is from 1950. It promises to transform Indian society. If we see the preamble of the Indian Constitution, it seeks to embrace the ideals of justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity, all of which are also aligned with the concept of human dignity. As early as in 1951, a very prominent Supreme Court judge, Justice Vivian Bose, stated that the Indian Constitution is a living organism and should be allowed to grow sturdily in a democratic way of life. Time and again, the Indian Supreme Court has expanded the scope of fundamental rights provided in the Indian constitutions. And if they had not done so, the Constitution of India would have been a stagnant and a redundant document. Chief example of this is Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, which provides protection of life and liberty to the people. Now, since long, the Supreme Court has been giving a dynamic interpretation to this article, wherein they have elucidated various rights like right to speedy trial, right to legal aid, right to clean environment, right to clean drinking water, right to education, right to privacy, under the umbrella of Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, thus bringing out the transformational nature of the Indian Constitution. Some important cases I would like to discuss. There was a case of N.M. Thomas versus Union of India, in which the Supreme Court of India laid down that the Indian Constitution as a document has been a frontrunner, has played a pivotal role in achieving its objective of transforming the Indian society into a progressive democracy, which is a feature of transformative constitutionalism. There was another case in 2004, Saurabh Chaudhary versus Union of India, in which the Supreme Court of India laid down that the landscape of Indian constitution was ever expanding with the passage of time, and it's not an inanimate, but it is a living organism. Very recently, there was a very famous case, which was KS Puttaswamy versus Union of India about 2-3 years back in 2017, in which the Supreme Court upheld the right to privacy of all the Indian citizens and held that the constitution has to be understood in such a manner that it fulfills the ever-evolving necessities of the Indian society. Moving forward, in Young India Lawyers Association versus State of Kerala, popularly known as Sabarimala judgment, in which the Supreme Court gave women, there was a temple, famous temple called Sabarimala in India, which prohibited entry of women aged 10 to 50 years from entering into the temple premises for religious purposes. The Supreme Court struck down that practice and terming it as unconstitutional, and thereby paving way for the woman to attend that religious place. And wherein the Supreme Court again held that the Constitution has a transformational visualization, and all the rights enshrined in it aim for the progress of the individual. It was again emphasized that narrow approach and interpretation of the Constitution would stultify its spirit, especially in a globalized world wherein legal, economic issues are consistently coming to the forefront. Thank you for a patient hearing. I would now like to hand over the baton of the presentation to my colleague Zubair.
Thank you, Preeti. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Preeti. Now, my next topic is transformative constitutionalism and an extended version, that is the interlink between transformative constitutionalism and the constitutional morality in the contemporary phase. Now, in how the Preeti defined about this transformative constitutionalism, in our country, we actually believe that the social democracy is totally depending upon the political democracy also. And we believe that political democracy cannot last unless there lies at the basis of social democracy also, which actually means it's a way of life where you can recognize liberty, equality, fraternity as a principle of life also. Now, based upon this principle, transformative constitutionalism seems to be very important for all of us. Not only it imposes a responsibility, a kind of obligation upon the states, but it also imposes a responsibility upon the courts also, Supreme Court or the different courts of different sub-states as well also. Now, in this thing, transformative constitution in our country, we usually believe that there are two important aspects also. Number one is the substantive equality, which is the main basis of the egalitarian democracy. Number two is the positive social relationship to resolve the disputes between individual and the state also. Now, these are the two main key perspectives which may play a very important role in our country also, and in other third developing countries also. Now, the major challenge which we are facing altogether, which we have to see, is that access to equal justice depending upon the transformative justice. Now, what is this idea of transformative justice? The idea of transformative justice actually not been discussed anywhere in any of the constitutional provision in our country or any of the developing countries also. But it actually talks about the issues of liberty and the equality, fraternity all together. In our country, there are many marginalized section of societies. There are many downtrodden section of societies which has been ignored. If I remember correctly, in the last roundtable discussion, I raised the issue of migrant workers and daily wage workers also. And surprisingly and strangely also, a week after Supreme Court of India have taken a so moto cognizance of the problems and the misery of these migrant workers. And they have given strict orders to the central government as well as to the state government that you need to ensure adequate supply of food and water to all these migrant workers who are traveling from one state to another state, maybe while walking the road also. And that also includes daily wages workers. So I believe that now it is something where judicial activism or the, you can say the public morality seems to be very important for the Constitution of India. Now, this is how I want to connect that how transformative constitution is important. It is an instrument of social change, and how so far the constitution, which needs to be revived, needs to be updated every time within every generation also. So you can say the sustainable development is actually depending upon this transformative constitution. Now, why I have correlated with this constitutional morality? This constitutional morality is actually has been classified. There are two kinds of moralities which exist in legal philosophy. One is the public morality. Second one is the constitutional morality also. Now, in the developing countries where it is backed by lack of employment, lack of legal education, lack of other necessities also, usually we go by public morality also. But it was there in the 20th century or maybe in the 19th century. In the 21st century, it is important that the constitutional morality seems to be more important than the public morality also. Keeping in mind these situations also, in the last few years, we have come across a number of controversial judgments also. Number one judgment which came with regard to a provision which is mentioned in our Indian Penal Code, Section 377 Indian Penal Code, which says about there will be a penalty which will be imposed upon homosexuality also. Now, Supreme Court of India previously in the last decade, whenever they have heard any kind of public interest litigation, they have raised the arguments of public morality, and they said that we cannot decriminalize this homosexuality. But interestingly also, 2 years back, we have the Supreme Court of India have given this judgment on the decriminalization of homosexuality also. And there, now for the first time, they have raised the issue of right of privacy as discussed by the Preeti in the Puttaswamy versus Union of India. And they also discuss about the human rights, the fundamental rights of LGBT group also. So this seems to be a very important dimension for all of us, that what will be the future altogether for the LGBT people also. And in fact, this is the best decision which can correlate that now it is not the public morality which is important or the mob justice which is important. It is the constitutional imperatives which seems to be important in nature also. And now we have seen the constitutional philosophies have evolved over the period of time. So that's how they are trying to say, this judgment is actually trying to say that social democracy seems to be more important in nature. We cannot ignore downtrodden or the vulnerable section of societies, including LGBT people also. There is another judgment which came across that is about decriminalization of adultery also. We have another provision also that which is passed in the year 1860, that which penalize the adultery also, where a husband having extramarital affair with wife also. Now, interestingly, this judgment also seems to be very important for us also, where Supreme Court of India again decriminalized the adultery provision also. And there they have discussed that sexual autonomy seems to be very important in nature also. They have raised the thing that long we're not living in a patriarchal society, where the gender equality and the gender justice seems to be very important in nature also. So keeping in mind these things, they have clearly mentioned in bold words that wife or husband, they are not master servant to each other also. So that is saying that this patriarchal mindset has to be changed altogether over the period of time. So this decision also seems to have a very number of implications of our society also. Of course, there are certain personal laws also, like Hindu Marriage Act, like Muslim Marriage Act, or like other Christian Marriage Act, which will affect on these adultery provisions also. So there, this point of view has been raised over the period of time, whether in our country where this is a cosmopolitan country, where there are a number of diversity which we exist also, do we need a uniform civil code? Then the Supreme Court of India have not discussed, but yes, answer is yes also, that in any point of time in the near future, whatsoever kind of religions, whatsoever kind of caste we have in our country, still uniform civil code is more important altogether. This is the second judgment which actually compels us to give a thought that yes, transformative constitutionalism and constitutional morality, there seems to be very important in nature also. Apart from that, there have been certain other judgments which talks about substantive freedom, where this says that we need to involve ourselves in number of issues which plays against the social justice also. So in that particular directions, there have been certain judgments where the Supreme Court of India have raised the issue of economically weakly section societies also. Now, there are certain downtrodden societies where the Court of Law have clearly mentioned that reservation seems to be very important nature for these downtrodden peoples in the public sector employment opportunities also. So rightly pointed out by the state as a reminder of their obligation, as well as by the Supreme Court of India, where they have upheld the reservation policies for the economically weaker sections of societies also. Though that may be political agenda for them also, but at the same time, reservation seems to be very important in nature. And there they have said that this reservation in the long run may overcome the problem of social discrimination and economic discrimination in every cosmopolitan society also. So these are the few judgments which plays a very important role in interplay between constitutional morality and transformative constitutionalism. Over to you, George. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Preeti Ramani and Zubair Khan from New Delhi. Let me now stop the recording.